أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. My name is Faruq, and as you can tell, I'm another white man telling people what to do, you know. They've put me up here in charge today. No, I'm joking. My story to Islam. I don't know how much time I've got left, but I'll be brief with it. MashaAllah. I've got 10 minutes, yeah? Cool, I might have to stretch it out a bit, yeah? I was born and grew up in a place called Essex. Do you know what I mean? Anyone know where that is? Yeah? Where is it, bro? It's that way, isn't it? It's about that.
I know a city in Essex, I think Worthing.
Worthing. I don't know about that. But yeah, it might be. Not very good at geography. I'm from Essex, bro. You know? I'm joking. Now, Essex is a coastal county. Has a large portion of it on the coast. Basildon is where I grew up, in a small town called Leyden. And it's Jahil. In terms of like where I grew up, there was 2 Asian shops, and they were the only Asians we knew about. And there was 1 black family in the whole area. And that's how it was for me growing up. I grew up near a woodland area, so you spend a lot of time in the woods. And I didn't like football and things like that. I weren't like the normal sort of youth. Because I weren't very good at it, I always got picked last. But I always believed in Allah. This was a natural thing for me, to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ever since I was a little boy. But it weren't Allah, I used to believe in God. And I used to talk to him, just the way I was. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made me upon fitrah, and alhamdulillah, I didn't lose my way. My mum wasn't religious. I was in a single parent family, so I just grew up with just me mum and me nan and me older brother and me older sister. And yeah, I was like that until I moved to Germany for a couple of years. I lived there and worked there. Then I came back, and then I moved to a place called Slough. Anyone know where Slough is? It's down the road, isn't it? Yeah. You live in Slough? Me too, bro. Going back that way. Give me a lift. You'll have to lift my car as well. And when I moved there, I moved next to this guy. His name was Amr. And I saw him. He's an Asian guy. And he goes, "You all right, mate?" I was like, "What?" Because Mr. Patel and Tej, the 2 corner shop owners, they had the traditional Asian accent, shall we say. And when I saw a brown guy speak like an English bloke, it was a big shock for me. So how comes you talk like that? Because I was born here, wasn't I? I was like, okay. So I got to know him, and I used to go round his often, and he had on his wall, he had this parchment, and on it had the last sermon of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I used to read it, and I used to berate him with it. I'd go, "You need to be like this man here. You people, your people, should I say, need to be more like him, more like Rasulullah." And while I was ignorant, I wasn't wrong. Because we all need to be more like him. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he became my friend over some time, and I had some influence on him, and he started to have some influence on me. And at that time I was, shall we say, I've always been interested in the unseen. So the world of the jinn and the world of the angels and the unseen aspects of this universe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that there are 7 heavens and 7 earths. Now, while for some of us it's a belief without much of a reality, if that makes sense, there are some scientists out there who see it as more of a reality rather than a belief. So if you tell them Islam says this, they don't care. They say, "We have a theory that there's multiple verses." That's what they say. But at that time I was more on that side. I understood that there was other things and other worlds, potentially. And I was very interested in time travel. Who wants to travel through time? If you don't, something wrong with you. It's the only legit gambling for a Muslim to do. Because it's not gambling. You know what the numbers are going to be on the lottery, right? So It's a joke, that. Okay. So I wanted to time travel. And I really looked into it. Not from like a, I'd sit there with a tinfoil hat on. But it was like I was looking at real scientific theories that could potentially lead to time travel. And at that time, I spent quite a while with it. I came to the conclusion that it's not possible. But there was one anomalous piece of information that sort of was like niggling at me. And that was people who, by the way, don't take that word out of context. It was people who predict the future. There was a man called Nostradamus. Anyone heard of him? He was a man who wrote a book, and he wrote loads of things, but he wrote a book, and he talked about events in the future. Now, my conclusion with him was that it was educated guessing. And then I looked at the biblical prophecies, and again, when you go to see what people explain it as, it's allegoric in meaning. So they'd say, well, it could mean this and it could mean that. And everything didn't really have a meaning, because whoever you went to gave you a different response, right? And then this brother Amr, he told me about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And one of that hadith is from a long hadith called Hadith of Jibril. Does anyone know it? It's a famous hadith, very long hadith. One of the longer hadith, should I say. In this hadith, I'll just take a portion of it out. Jibril alayhi salam, he came to Rasulullah and he asked him some questions. And one of them, he said, when is the hour? And Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, the one who is asking knows no more than the one who's being asked. Meaning that I don't know any more than you do. So, subhanAllah, he said, but there are some signs. So he narrated two signs. The first one was when the slave girl gives birth to the mistress. Some of the scholars, they discuss the meaning of this hadith. And then he said, and when the barefooted, naked desert Arabs compete with one another in building tall buildings. At that time, they were building Burj Khalifa. And I was wowed, because this hadith is very clear. It mentions the people, and it also mentions the competition aspect. So at that time, I think Riyadh had the tallest building, and then they came along and built an even taller building, and then there was also plans to build one that was even bigger in Jeddah. So I knew then that the predictions of this man, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, were different. So he gave me a book. It's called A Brief Illustrated Guide to Islam. And anyone know that book? It's a very small little pamphlet that talks about different aspects of Islam. And it talked about an ayah in the Quran of how we were created in the womb. And it says that we were created from alaq. And it gives three meanings. A clotted piece of blood, something suspended. Yeah? And there's three meanings. Something suspended, clotted blood, yeah, and clinging, and a leech. Thank you very much, brother. When I read that, I knew that this was from Allah, because there's no simpler way of explaining the creation in the womb than that. It's amazing. Then it said, and then from that we made it into something chewed, like mughda, or mudgha, excuse me. And then when you look at the teeth at the back who are thick, and the pictures were amazing. I was like, this is from Allah. But I didn't know that you had to become Muslim at all. A brother told me, he brought another brother around who was good at da'wah. He weren't a da'i, brother Amr, but he was the one who gets the reward, inshallah, because he brought me to Islam. But brother Jawad, another guy who used to do TV work, I don't know if people see him anymore. Lovely, beautiful black brother, mashallah, with a kind of like an afro. Who remembers Fido Dido? He has that Fido Dido here, bro. Mashallah, I haven't seen him in a long time, but he does a lot of TV work. And to cut a long story short, because I'm running out of time, he said one day, I said, can I go to Jannah? He said, no. I said, why not? He said, because you ain't Muslim. I said, well, how do I be a Muslim then? You got to tell me, bro. And he's like, listen, he goes, it's got to be in your heart and in your tongue, on your tongue and in your actions. So he said, you've got to say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. And I said it. It's like, yeah, cool. Then they taught me the dua when you start the salah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. You know, what about the customer? So I learned that They wrote it down in English for me, and then they left. And I didn't see them for ages. But I started to go to the masjid. I just wanted to go. I went there, and the first time I prayed in the masjid, it was as if I was praying in front of Allah, and it was an amazing moment. And I started talking to everyone, going, did you feel that? They were like, what? I was like, it's like I was standing in front of the Lord. They were like, what are you talking about? They started thinking I was like a weirdo, right? And I was. I was given a book called Sunan al-Tirmidhi, and I started to dress like Rasulullah. But if you were to look at me, I looked like what people describe as Sufis. I wrapped a turban, I used to put khul in my eyes, I put my left hand in my pocket, I walked like I was running down a hill, I was going around slow like that. SubhanAllah, alhamdulillah, every step I took, doing dhikr. Bro, I was a weirdo, man. And then I went back home to my mum, and I thought everybody's going to become Muslim. I thought, how can you deny Islam? It's like so obvious. I didn't know about that ayah. Allah is the one who guides. So I went into my yard dressed like that. My mum's there, my stepdad's there, my older brother's there, my sister's there, and my younger brother. And I walked in there. I was like, yeah, Islam's the truth. And I started to give da'wah. And they're like, what are you doing? I was like, why aren't they becoming Muslim? I didn't understand it. And my brother Isa, who became Muslim after this, he came up to me, he called me a rude word. Called me a Pakistani without a stani. And I said, ittaqillah, fear God. Because there's two angels on your shoulders. And one of them writes down the bad that you do, and one of them writes down the good things that you do. And then I said, and there's another creation called the jinn. I spoke for 10 seconds. And he said, I want to be a Muslim. No da'wah, no explaining Islam. I told him about the jinn and the two malaika, and he wanted to become a Muslim. How? Because it's Allah who guides. My nan, I gave da'wah to her for a long time. She never accepted Islam. A couple of months before she passed away, she was in hospital, and she claimed a man came to her dressed in white, saying that he knew me and that she should follow me. So she became Muslim against all my family. Why? Because it's Allah who guides. Your job, my brothers and sisters, whoever's listening to this, is to give da'wah, and it's Allah who guides. If you're more knowledgeable, you may be able to convince people intellectually that even some Sahaba went to the extremity of trying to make themselves throw up what alcohol was in their stomach. Let's go back only 100 years. America had something that they called the prohibition. And for 4 years they waged a war against their own people. Why? Because of the fitrah of mankind. Alcohol is evil. And it begets evil. Yet the mighty nation of America, with the police force, with the money, could not cause anybody to stop drinking. Yet when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the ayah down, everybody was ready to implement the laws of Allah. And there's a difference there. The difference isn't just knowledge. Yes, brothers, you are here for the next few days, those of you who choose to do so, to gain knowledge. But knowledge is part of the battle, it's not the whole battle. Why is it that some brothers know that you have to pray, yet they don't? Why is it that some brothers know that you're not allowed to get a mortgage and they go and get a mortgage? They know that you're not allowed to gamble, yet you see them going and gambling. We know the 5 pillars. You guys, do you know the 5 pillars of Islam?
I know some of them.
Okay, what's one of them?
Hajj.
Hajj. Everybody knows that Hajj is a pillar of Islam. Why is it that some people don't do Hajj? Insufficient Iman. They don't have enough Iman to do it. And that is the life force, the blood of every Muslim is your Iman. That is why when the ayah prohibiting people from drinking alcohol, when it came down, everybody started throwing it away because of their Iman. Allahu Akbar. Why did I start with this? Is it because I didn't prepare anything on the way here? Probably. But there is a reason for it. When we get into Dawah, I'm going to tell you a few stories and I'm going to tell you my story of what brought me to Islam. But I'll tell you, I heard a story, and some of you may have heard it before. There was a brother from South London. He became Muslim. And the thing with Dawah is Islam he became Muslim, and the brothers he was around, I think they meant well, but they kept telling him, no, that's haram. They were giving him mashallah, the ilm of Islam, of what the do's and the don'ts. And the brother, he wouldn't do it. So they would say, don't do this, don't do that. And one day they went to his house and he was playing FIFA. And those brothers said, you can't play that anymore, it's haram. And he said, if this is haram, then I don't want Islam. And he left Islam because of that. Now, I don't want to get into the, halalness of playing video games. That's for the shuyukh to discuss. And it's, not pertinent here now, but I wanted to highlight that if the heart is not ready for the halal and haram, it's very difficult to implement Islam. As we said, those brothers who know that salah is obligatory, yet they struggle with it. They know that you can't do riba, yet they're doing riba. They know you shouldn't look at certain things on your phone, and they're looking at certain things on their phones. Yeah? Insufficient iman. So when doing da'wah, remember that you are only a conduit for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to use to guide the people to Islam. There's an ayah of Quran that I'm going to recite. Is anyone here hafidh of Quran? Good. I was going to say, plug your ears. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولو أننا نزلنا إليهم الملائكة وكلمهم الموتى وحشرنا عليهم كل شيء قبلا ما كانوا ليؤمنوا إلا أن يشاء الله ولكن أكثرهم يجهلون. In this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it clear. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it known that it's not you who guides. It is not the ilm that guides. In fact, it's not even the miracles that guide. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that if it was that, Allah was to send down with the Quran an angel. So imagine that. Every time you recited Quran, an angel pops up to witness that this is from Allah. And not only that, do you know what zombies are?
Yeah.
So dead people who rise up, right? The dead people start getting out of the grave and they start saying, yeah, this is from Allah. They're not trying to eat the brains. Just to witness that this is from Allah, the Quran. And if Allah said, even if I brought in front of them all the created things, yeah? All the things, what's that? The throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jannah, nar, all these created things. Al-jinn. Who knows about the jinn? Subhanallah. Only 3 of you, mashallah. You need to read Quran, the rest of you. No, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was to bring these created things in front of the people, none of them would believe. None of them would believe, except for what reason? Except by the permission of Allah. The great angel, Jibreel, if he was in front of them, they wouldn't believe. Many people say, yeah, if I saw Allah, right? If I saw him, I'd become Muslim, but where is he? That's what they say. This is what they say. They give a reason as to why they don't believe. They say, I don't have enough evidence. But you, my brother and sister, whoever's going to be involved in the da'wah after this weekend, it's not up to you. It's up to Allah who guides. And at the end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَكِنْ أَكْثَرَهُمْ يَجَهَلُونَ. But most of you are ignorant of this, and them too. Most of the people are ignorant of this. They don't know that guidance is only from Allah. So that's all you've got to do. Learn the knowledge, but put full trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanaka wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakallah khair for letting me come today, brothers and sisters and whoever organised the event. And may Allah accept all the good that we try to do and forgive us for all the bad that we do, because indeed we do bad. And ultimately, what do we want? Firdaus al-A'la. If you ever feel weak in your iman, go learn about Firdaus. Go learn about Jannah. Spend your time in Jannah and you will inshallah feel revitalized to do what you do. And our brothers and sisters who are suffering in Gaza, they're getting one-way tickets. There is a hadith that anyone who dies as a martyr, their souls will be placed into the crops of green birds. They get to eat from the fruits of Jannah. So those brothers and sisters who suffer and then die like that, may Allah give them that position or in the chandeliers hanging from the throne of Allah. Ameen. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.